There are moments in life when heaven seems silent. You pray, you wait, you hope, and nothing changes. It feels as if God has forgotten you. But sometimes silence isn't absence, it's preparation. It's the breath before the wind, the pause before the rain. And when the time is right, heaven always speaks. Today I'll tell you the story of a man who learned to hear heaven's time. On top of an old hill stood a small white chapel. Its walls had faded with the years, and the silver dome reflected the moving sky like a mirror touched by clouds. When evening mist rolled through the valley, the chapel seemed to float above the world, quiet, timeless, alive with eternity. Beside that chapel lived an old caretaker named Alexei. Every morning, before the sun rose, he unlocked the gates, swept the path, and polished the bells until they gleamed. When the first light touched the windows, he lit a single candle inside. That was his simple offering, a wordless prayer made of silence and devotion. People in the nearby village all knew him, though few really understood him. Years ago, Alexei had been a respected teacher. He had a family, a warm home, and students who loved him. But after illness took his wife and son, he left everything behind and came to live by the chapel. Since then, he was seen only with a broom, a bucket, and eyes that always looked toward the sky. Children often laughed. The old man's watching clouds again. What's he looking for up there? And the elders would quietly say, he's looking for answers. Alexei never minded. He knew people often mock what they fear to understand. Each evening he sat on a wooden bench by the chapel wall, watching the slow river of clouds drift across the heavens. Sometimes, when the wind picked up, he would smile and say, "See how the clouds rush? Those are the souls who hurry toward happiness." And when they moved slowly and peacefully, he added, "And those, they already know, everything comes in its own time." One summer day, a quarrel broke out in the village below. A farmer had borrowed grain and failed to return it. Angry word spread, friends took sides, and soon the whole community was divided. So the elders decided to visit Alexei, for, as they said, he lives closer to the chapel, so maybe he hears God better than we do. They found him by the gate, gazing up at the clouds again. One of them asked, "Tell us, who is right? The one who demands justice, or the one who asks forgiveness?" Alexei stayed silent for a long time. Then he said softly, "Have you asked the wind when the rain will come?" "Of course not," they replied. "Who can know that?" "Exactly," he smiled. "Truth is the same. It doesn't come when we demand it. Divine truth moves like the clouds, in its own season, in its own rhythm." The men left puzzled, not sure what he meant. But Alexei whispered to himself, "The answer always comes, when the heart is ready to receive it." Weeks passed, and the heat grew unbearable. Fields cracked, wells dried up, and people began to murmur that heaven had turned away. Every morning Alexei lit a candle and prayed, not for rain, but for patience. He knew heaven never forgets those who wait with faith. Sometimes he stepped outside, looked at the empty sky, and murmured, "Lord, send not the rain yet, send wisdom to wait for it." One afternoon, a woman came to him with her little child. "Why does God stay silent?" she asked. "I pray every day, but he doesn't answer." Alexei smiled gently. He dipped his fingers into a bucket and showed the child a drop of water. "See this drop? How long it must have waited in the clouds before it fell to earth. Every prayer is like that. It travels a long way, but if you believe, it will return to you as rain." The woman began to weep, and the child, looking up at the sky, smiled for the first time. One morning, Alexei woke to the sound of wind roaring through the trees. He stepped outside and saw dark clouds gathering above the hill. Thunder rolled in the distance. He climbed to the bell tower and rang every bell at once. Their sound mingled with the thunder until the heavens opened, and rain poured down. People ran from their homes, laughing, crying, lifting their faces to the sky. Some fell to their knees. And up on the tower, Alexei whispered, "This is heaven's time. Not when we ask, but when we're ready to receive." He stayed there a long while after the storm passed, watching the clouds drift away. Perhaps people are like clouds, he thought. We move, we change, we pour out our tears, and one day we return to the sky. Years went by. Alexei grew frail and thin, his beard white as mist. In his small cell, he kept only a candle, an icon, and a worn notebook filled with his thoughts. On the last page he wrote, "God never truly stays silent. He speaks in the language of time. Every wind, every cloud carries his answer. The secret is, don't leave before you've learned to listen." One morning, the villagers found him sitting by the chapel door, peaceful and still. It looked as if he had simply fallen asleep. Above the hill, clouds drifted slowly across the sky, and one of them, people said, looked like a shining cross. Since then, a small plaque has hung on the chapel wall. Do not rush to demand an answer. Sometimes God has already spoken. You just haven't learned to listen yet. So next time you look at the sky and watch the clouds move, remember this story. Maybe, in that silent motion, heaven is speaking to you too. Never lose faith when heaven seems quiet. Behind every cloud, there is light. And behind every silence, an answer waiting to arrive. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a quiet whisper of heaven today.